Hello everyone, this is Doug, and in this video I'm going to show you how to use AI to drastically improve your experimental sections that you're writing. In this case, I'm going to use Claude, but you could use ChatGPT or Perplexity or Grok or Gemini or really whatever you want to use. But they're great tools to help do the fine-tuning of your experimental sections because they can be pretty awkward to write. In this video, I'm going to talk about just real quickly like sort of the ethics behind using these sorts of tools, and I'm also going to show you how to write slightly better prompts and how to give AI more information so that it can give you ultimately a better product. And we want to leave here with the best experimental we could possibly get. So first, with the ethical stuff, it's always really important to make sure that the work that you present is your work. Nobody wants to get in trouble for plagiarism, whether you're in school or whether you're a professional researcher, right? Anything that you produce, you need to be able to claim as your own original work. Now, AI is kind of a little bit tricky because a lot of times we use it to improve our work, but we don't want to have it generate the work for us. So here, I wrote a really terrible experimental, and we'll talk about how to fix it. But at least I wrote it, right? At least it came from somewhere. I didn't have AI just write it out of nowhere. When you're looking at these ethical considerations, there are websites like this is Inago. I'll leave a link to this in the description here. But there are websites that look at what are the guidelines for the use of AR in manuscripts. So I looked at two kind of large journals. We got the ACS and we got the Royal Society of Chemistry here. And they go through and they say what's allowed, what's not allowed, right? So ACS says you can't use Gen AI to write the transcript. The Royal Society of Chemistry says you can, but you have to have a human review it and the author needs to disclose it, right? And you could look at other publishers, you could look at Elsevier or, any of these, Wiley, whichever one you're trying to publish a paper in, and kind of get a sense of what's allowed and what's not allowed and what do you need to disclose or not disclose. What I'm talking about in this video down here is under the editing. We're going to use generative AI for language editing and improvements, right? So we already wrote something and we're going to use AI tools to improve it. So they talk about ChatGPT or DeepSeek. I'm using Claude because I just like the way that it sounds when it writes. And that is allowed, right? I'm going to write something. I'm just going to have these help improve my grammar and refine the text for clarity and rewrite some sentences. That's what we're doing here. So if I go back to Claude, again, I could just, I just copy and pasted some terrible experimental, and I could say something generic like, please fix my experimental section, and I could enter this and it will spit out something that will be better probably, but I don't think it's not going to be that great. This is not a very good prompt. It doesn't give much guidance. Claude's just going to try to figure out what it can figure out based on what its training data was. But I don't want to get 60% there. I want to get 95% there. I want this to pretty much give me an almost perfect experimental. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it more guidance. And I'm going to do that by uploading to it a checklist that I wrote of things that really need to be in your experimental section. What do you have to have? Something that I wrote for students a while ago. And it just points out things like you don't have to overly describe common chemical techniques. You don't have to describe a vacuum filtration much. You just assume chemists know it. So you can just say isolated by vacuum filtration instead of I set up a Buchner funnel and a rubber adapter and a sidearm flask and I clamped it. You don't have to go into all that detail, for example. You got to use this passive third person past tense voice. You got to include millimoles in parentheses and just basically a whole bunch of things. I'm not going to read this all right now, but I will post a link to this actually also in the description so that you can use it if you want to try using AI to improve your experimental sections. So I'm going to go back to Claude and I'm going to go ahead and upload this. I'm just dragging and dropping this checklist for experimental sections in here. Boom. So now it's kind of got this. And I'm also going to give it a sample experimental, right? So here's an experimental I wrote for a publication a while ago. Has all of the information about how to make the thing, what its properties were, how I monitor it. And then the second half is all the spectroscopic data. I'm not going to really go into the spectroscopic data right now. It's not that hard to just kind of copy and paste and format it. What I'm focusing on this video what I'm focusing on in this video is the actual writing, because it's pretty awkward to do this third person passive thing to a solution of phthalaldehyde and dry 1,4-dioxane was added this blah 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 acetophenone. It's just kind of a funny way to talk. But I'm going to give Claude this as well. So I'm going to go ahead and download that sample experimental in here also. And I'm going to try to improve my prompt here. Please fix my experimental sections. Not great. It's not very descriptive. I instead am going to put this prompt in. I need help write an experimental section for a chemistry experiment that I performed. I have attached some guidelines below, right here, and an example of a well-written experimental. Can you please help me fix my first draft below and ask me any clarifying questions that will help with the process? I really think that this is an important thing to add to prompts, especially because you want to kind of interact with the AI more. So hopefully it's going to catch on that like I'm missing some things. Like I don't have millimoles in here. I didn't say what kind of flask. You know, there's lots of kind of flask. What kind of flask? I didn't say what the TLC data was. There's a lot missing from this really terrible experimental. So I'm going to go ahead and send this, and let's see what Claude has to say. And it's thinking, and here we go. So now it's got some clarifying questions, which is great, right? So what are the molar amounts? I need to calculate the molar amounts, the molar mass, or sorry, not the molar mass, the millimoles for each. These are the things I was just saying. Was the flask round bottomed? Yes. What temperature was it at? What do you do with the organic layer? Did you characterize it? What was the concentration of H? These are all great questions, right? These are questions that I need to answer so that a better experimental can be written. So it's generated all these questions for me, and I'm going to go ahead and paste my answers to them, right? I calculated the millimoles. Yeah, it was a round bottom flask. I gave it more information about my reaction conditions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So now that I've given it all of the information that it asked for, which it should ask for thanks to that checklist, now it's giving me a revised experimental section that at first glance looks pretty darn good, right? So here's the name of the product right at the beginning. Good. Sodium hydroxide and this were combined DCM, 50 milliliter round bottom flask. Got the millimoles in there, stirred, TLC deemed complete. I don't know about deemed complete. So yeah, and this is where you still need to review this. Don't just copy and paste this whole sucker and be like, this is great. I don't like the deemed complete. You can just say it was monitored by TLC and stop. Deemed complete seems a little too formal to me personally. Aqueous hydrochloric acid, 10%, 10 milliliters, perfect, was added. It was transferred separatory funnel. Organic layer was separated. Aqueous layer discarded. Organic layer was washed sequentially. Yeah, that's okay. Solvent was removed and reduced pressure on rotary evaporated before light yellow powder. Yeah, that looks good. That's pretty good. It's a little more wordy, but I think it's so much better. So I would do some light editing on this, and then you're good to go. And now you've used AI to drastically improve. This is so much better. It's not even in the same league as this terrible one that I wrote before. And it just takes a little bit of time. I mean, that didn't take very much time at all, right? This whole video is only like 8 minutes long. And now you can write a much improved experimental section just like that. So I hope you found that this video was helpful and that it improves all of your scientific writing. Thanks so much.